So I recorded this about a week ago, and my original video got deleted, so sorry for the late post, but I re-recorded it and here's what I got. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Leslie and I'm in the middle of planning my wedding. Welcome to Wedding Wednesdays. If you haven't already, go ahead and press that red button and subscribe to my videos. And if you want to, go ahead and press that little bell so you can get notifications every time I post something. I post every Wednesday for Wedding Wednesdays, and randomly another day throughout the week, I'll post something else. I haven't figured out which day yet, but you'll know if you press that little red button and press the little bell so you get notifications every time I do it. This video, as you can see by the title, is how to not be a bridezilla. That's something that I've always enjoyed watching, you know, that show Bridezilla.
I want my $15 back if he's not here within an hour. Okay, or half an hour. Okay. I went out my way to pay $15 extra for his ass to be here. This is an inconvenience!
But it's not something I ever wanted to be. So I've come up with pretty much steps so that I can follow and keep myself in check, because no one likes a bridezilla, and why would you want to be that? There's no reason for you to come out of character, especially when you're preparing for like the most amazing day of your life. So without further ado, let's get right on to it. Be organized. It's important for you to be organized when you're planning your wedding because there's so many components that go into the actual event itself. And there's so many people involved, so many vendors, so many, you know, family members and friends that are pretty much involved. And it's not just one day, there's so many other things that lead up to that big day. For example, your bridal shower, bachelor and bachelorette party, the rehearsal dinner, and then whatever other stuff that you actually add in there for some fun with your family. So for me, I created a binder, and I'll make a video on that as soon as I have the time to. But pretty much my binder has everything that I need, from my theme to my invitations to my guest list and etc. You kind of get the idea. But pretty much that binder has helped me stay in check and stay on task, and also be realistic, because I am a budget bride and I am a DIY bride, so I need to be realistic with the things that I want and how I'm going to achieve them. And so yeah, at first I was Pinterest crazy and I printed out a bunch of different inspirations that I had that were clearly unachievable in my price range. But as I continued to do my research and look at different things, I was able to come up with something that not only I can afford, but most of the stuff I can make myself because I'm pretty crafty. And obviously once I start doing that, I'll start recording that as well. But yeah, me being organized was what pretty much helped me figure out that, one, I could do this stuff myself, but two, that I could do it in the most affordable way possible instead of just jumping the gun and just booking things and ordering things without actually spending the time to figure it out. The reason why it's important to stay organized is because you are dealing with a lot of people, and the more you know what you're doing and the more you know what you're talking about, the easier it is to tell people what you want. Every vendor is going to ask the same thing. What is it that you're looking for? What is that you want? And they're going to try to sell themselves. And if you don't know what you want, you're going to get sold. And you're going to end up spending way more money than you want to. So stay woke. Delegate. It's important to delegate different tasks to different people. That's why we have a bridal party. You know, they're our closest friends that are going to be there for us and help us get ready for the day and on the day. And they're not just there to be pretty in dresses. So my bridesmaids, for example, know that they're going to be invited to DIY parties, and we're going to make centerpieces and we're going to make signs and all that stuff, because why am I going to pay for something I could already make myself? But I can't make it myself. I need more hands than just two, because it will take me literally a year to do all the stuff that I want to do. It's also important to have someone on the day of, you know. Obviously the coordinator, if you have one, is going to be the one that does all the stuff. I have a wedding coordinator, but she is for the venue, so she's helping me with all the venue related things, and she'll be there on the day of to pretty much tell us where to go, what to do, what time is it, you know, keep us on track in that way. But other things like who is going to pay the vendors for you, who is going to collect the gifts, who's gonna put the gifts and the cards in their car and bring it to their house for you to get it later, or bring it to your house for you to get it later. You need a photo wrangler. In my opinion, you need a photo wrangler because it takes so much time for you to go get in each individual person instead of just giving that job to someone else who knows you and knows your family, usually another family member. Like for me, it's going to be my cousins that are going to run around and grab my aunts and my grandmother and all that stuff to bring them together. And so Chris and I don't have to actually leave our photo shoot, and people can just get brought in and taken out, and they go back to the cocktail party when they're done while we keep rolling. And that's going to save us so much time, because just like in life, time is money when you're planning a wedding. Be considerate of others. It's so easy for you to get wrapped up in your day and what you want, what your fiance wants, and you forget that other people have lives. Other people are not stopping their day to day because you're getting married. They're still going to work. They still have their own responsibilities. They still have their own things that they're dealing with. So just be considerate. And if you're organized, then you can be considerate, because if you're organized, then you can let your wedding party know way in advance that this is the dress that you want, this is the day that we're going to go look at dresses, and this is the price range that I'm looking at. So that way they can not only figure out in their schedule, can they even make that day? If not, can we switch the day? And they can also save up for that dress, because not everybody makes so much money, you know. Like, you have to be considered the fact that you may be able to afford a dress, but your little cousin may not be able to. So just take that into consideration. Be flexible. You can't be so gung-ho on something that you're not open to new options. For example, me, I wanted a fall wedding. I wanted to get married in November, and it was all set to go, and then I had to change my date. I had to be flexible because there was literally nothing I could do about it. Either I change the date and get married where I want to get married, or I keep the date and get married somewhere else. So I really had to be flexible. Like, am I changing my date or my location? Obviously, I love the place more than I love the date, so I kept the place and changed the time and the day. But it's all gonna work out for the best, in my opinion. Everything happens for a reason. But just be flexible. Don't be so strict with what you want, because sometimes it's not achievable, especially if you're a budget bride. If you're a budget bride, you're gonna have to make a lot of compromises, because our imaginations are more expensive than we can afford sometimes. And for me, I know that's true. Be on time. Not only like physically be on time to places when you have appointments, but just stay on track with your checklist, because things do have deadlines. You have to do certain things in a certain amount of time, or you're not going to get it in time. For example, bridesmaid dresses. You need to order them at a certain time, especially if you're ordering from a place like David Bridal. You need to order by a certain date to get it by a certain date, because if not, you're not going to get your dresses on time. And that's really important, because the last thing you need is for one of your bridesmaids to take forever to order her dress, and then it's the day of your wedding and her dress isn't ready yet. It's not altered yet, or hasn't come in yet. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds crazy, but that happens sometimes. Also being on time when it comes to your vendors. You don't want to wait too long to get your vendors, because people book out like a year in advance, and you don't want to fall in love with this photographer's work and then, you know, wait 2 months before your wedding to book them. They're probably not going to be available. Sometimes they might be, but most of the time they're not. So you're either going to have to be flexible with changing your photographer, or you're going to have to be timely and book them on time. Either way, you're going to have to follow one of those rules. having a plan B is super important, especially when planning such a big event, because I always hear that something always is gonna go wrong. Things go wrong, things happen, and you're just supposed to move on with it. But if you have plan B, is it won't be so chaotic when something happens. For example, weather. If you're having an outside wedding, you should have a tent. Even if it looks sunny and it's hot out, have a tent, because if you don't use that tent just in case it rains, you can use that tent for shade. But either way, you have a tent so that if it does rain, you're all set and you're not freaking out, or you're not having your wedding in the rain. You know, accept that things are going to happen. It took me a while, but things have already happened, so I've accepted it. I've accepted that things are out of my control, no matter how organized I am, no matter how timely I am, no matter how nice and considerate I am. Things just, they happen. So just gotta be okay with it. You gotta be able to just get over things. And sorry, my dog just went in front of the camera. You just gotta be able to get over things and not dwell on things. Like, something happens, just move on and get over it and keep going, because again, you are planning the best day of your life. You're not gonna let some little thing ruin that. I mean, unless like the groom cheated and called off the wedding, then I guess flip out. But other than that, if you're still getting married at the end of the day, who cares? Communicate. Communication is key when it comes to dealing with other people in general, but especially when planning an event. If everybody knows what everybody is doing and what's expected of them, then you won't have as much chaotic situations and mishaps. For example, I email my team. I email them separately at least once a month, maybe once every 2 months, just to ask follow-up questions, just to confirm certain things, things like that. But I also have a chain where I email all of them together when I want to just say one thing to all of them and I don't want to say it multiple times. And this goes all the way back to organization. When you know what you want, then you know what to ask for and you know what to tell people. And so when it comes to communicating with people, it's important to let them know what you want and what your expectations are. If you're shy, like with your photographer, for example, and you have a certain vision for your wedding day and you don't tell them, they won't know that. So communicating with them little by little throughout the process, if you're not, comfortable just saying whatever you need to say and getting it off your chest, sometimes it's good to just say it piece by piece. Ask certain questions, just be clear with certain things, because you don't want to go in assuming one thing and then when you get your finished product, it's something else. Especially with your venue, you're going to want to ask a ton of questions, because not every venue is the same. Mine, for example, comes with a coordinator, but she works for the venue. So she's going to help me the day of. She's gonna help me when it comes to the menu. She helped me with my invitations and things like that. But there's certain things that she's not going to do. For example, my centerpieces. I need to figure out what they're going to be and how they're going to be made and brought there. I'm making my centerpieces and I'm gonna figure out who's gonna bring them. Who's setting up? Who's tearing down? Is anyone gonna bust your tables? Things like that. Those are all important questions to ask your venue, because you don't want to be there on the day of and you're sitting there with your groom after dinner and you realize no one's busting your tables, and so you and your bridal party are gonna have to clean up. That's not cute or fun. So just figure that stuff out ahead of time, and you can do that through communication. Ask a ton of questions. None of these people are new to the game and they're used to it, so don't feel bad. Keep everybody in the loop, because again, an organized team is a team that runs well. Address people individually. I think that it's better when you have an issue with someone to address them personally and individually and not in a group setting. For example, you have an issue with a bridesmaid, don't talk about it in front of other bridesmaids, because one, it embarrasses the other person, makes them defensive, and the other big thing is that you have all these other people chime in because they're there, so they assume that they can be part of the conversation, and that's not helpful. The best way to deal with conflict is one-to-one. Say what you gotta say. Say it in the most non-confrontational way as possible, because at the end of the day, these are people that you care about. When it comes to your vendors, same thing. If you need to talk to your vendors, like I mentioned, I have a chain going with all my vendors on it. And if I have an issue with one vendor, I'm not going to talk about it in the chain. I'll talk about it separately with them, because that's no one else's business. When you're addressing people in a group setting, the audience kind of pumps up the Bridezilla in you, and you don't want to do that. So again, don't get yourself out of character. Be who you are on a normal basis. There's no reason for you to be bratty and bitchy just because you're planning your wedding. That's unacceptable and totally not fair for the people that are around you, because they're around you because they love you and they want to be there for you and they support you. Don't make them change their mind. They're not obligated to stick around. Plan in spurts. Plan in spurts. I have learned this the hard way, because when I first got engaged, I was reading everywhere that I had to do this 12 months in advance and this 9 months in advance, and I was going nuts the first 3 months of my engagement, because I thought that I was on a time crunch. I wanted to get married like within a year and all this stuff, and I was freaking out. And I was just planning like every day. I was like obsessed with Pinterest. I was obsessed with saving things, and I was obsessed with buying things for the wedding. I had so much stuff already the first 3 months, because I was just kind of freaking out. And it took me a second to step back and realize that I have a whole year and change now, since my date has changed. I have a whole like year and a half to plan my wedding. So what I do is I plan in spurts. I will take like 1 or 2 days, maybe 3, depending on what on my task sheet is coming up, and I'll really just focus on the wedding. I'll update my binder. I'll get rid of some things, because once tasks are completed, I just get rid of it. But I do that for a few days, and then I will stop, and I won't do anything for like 2 weeks, unless something is like due. But I won't touch my binder. I won't look through Pinterest. I won't do anything like that for about 2 weeks, maybe less. Just because I don't want to go crazy about the wedding. I don't want to start to resent my wedding. Every time I watch wedding videos, I always hear, at some point in your wedding, you're going to decide, or you're going to say, why didn't I elope? And I never want to feel that way. I want to savor the moment. I want to be happy. I don't want to be miserable all the time, because I'm so stressed out. And so by taking time away from the stressors, you can kind of, self-care, take care of yourself. You don't want to be miserable your whole wedding process. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the goal. So chill, relax. You have time. That is the biggest lesson I've learned, is that you have time. You don't have to rush and do everything all at once, because you have so much time to do things. And the longer you take to like really process things and look through things, the more money you save, because you're not rushing into stuff. You're looking at your best options and you're going with it. And it took me a second, but I did learn that. But with all that said, don't be a doormat. I know that most of my tips are revolving around being nice and being considerate, and not, being selfish, and just making this a fun time for you and the people that care about you and the people that are around you. But also, don't be a doormat, fight for what you want and work for what you want, and tell people what you want, because at the end of the day, your wedding day is just that. It's your wedding day, you and your groom. It's a day that you guys are never going to forget, and it's a day that should be really special. So while you're taking everyone else into consideration when it comes to the planning part of it, you should still fight for what is yours and what you want, because that's important. So if you got this far, thank you for watching, and I really appreciate it. I hope this helps some of you guys. These are some of the tips that I wish I knew early on, but here we are, and maybe someone else can learn from my mistakes. But yeah, don't be a Bridezilla. It's not fun. No one likes it, unless it's for the show Bridezilla. Then we all love to watch some crazy ladies on TV.
This doesn't make sense. That you guys are here this whole time and you let something like this happen? They thought we were just gonna fold. Gerald's not a folder.
I'm not a folder.
But no, don't be that crazy lady. Like, that's kind of insane, you know? Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.